In this lesson, you are going to learn how to create and manage layers and how to use the timeline panel. And you can add new layers by simply dragging footage right onto the layers panel. You can also create new layers by dragging footage right onto the composition window. You can create several different types of layers. You can add videos, graphics and still images, audio files. If you go up to the layer menu, new, adding text, solids, lights, cameras, null objects, shape layers, adjustment layers, all of these create new layers. If you drag and drop a file directly onto the composition window or on the layers panel, that will create a layer. But if you just drag and drop it into the project panel, that will import the footage, but it will not create a layer. Compositions are made up of individual layers. And if you want to group or nest individual layers together, well, then you can create another type of layer known as a pre-composition or a pre-comp. You can think of compositions as the top level or the main compositions, and the pre-comps are the compositions within a composition. So if you select one or more layers, you can right-click and choose pre-compose. When I click OK, After Effects took the selected layers and grouped them or nested them together into a new composition. Every composition or pre-comp has its own timeline. So if I want to edit the contents of this pre-comp, I just double-click, it opens up on its own timeline. So you can do whatever you want in this pre-comp, and when you go back to the main comp, it will update to any changes you made in the pre-comp. To close a pre-comp, just click on the little X next to the name. Just like any other layer, if you want to remove the pre-comp, you can just select it, tap the delete key. That removes it from the composition, but it is still in the project panel. There are many use cases for pre-comps, but one of my favorite ways to use them is to simply keep my layers panel organized and decluttered. So oftentimes when I start a new project, I create my main composition, and then I start building out the background. So this might be solid color layers, or paper textures, or animated overlays. And then what I do is just select all of the layers that make up my background. Then I'll just right-click, go to Pre-Compose. I'll move all attributes into the new composition, give it a name, so I'll call it BG for background, then click OK. And now I just have one layer. And if I want to edit anything in the background, all I have to do is double-click to open up that pre-comp, which again is just like any other composition. It opens up on its own timeline. I have all the layers. If I make any changes, I just close the pre-comp and it updates back in the main comp. And I will just repeat that for any groups of layers that all work together. I'm going to drag that character that was in the pre-comp back onto the composition window. When I let go, you'll see a new layer was created. Layers in After Effects works just like layers in Photoshop or other graphic editors. There is a stacking order. So if I drag the background paper texture above everything else, it's going to cover or hide the visibility of the layers below. If I drag it in between, I can see the character, but I can't see the logo. So I just need to drag the layers in the order that I want to see them. You can toggle on or off the visibility of a layer by just clicking on the little eyeball to the left of any layer. To solo or isolate layers, just click on the little box under the circle. Any layers that are soloed will be visible and everything else will be temporarily hidden. You can lock any layer, just click under the padlock column. At the top of the layers panel is what is called the header column. If you want to hide a column, you just right-click and choose Hide This. To show a column, you right-click, go to Columns, and just choose what you want to see. There's also some buttons in the bottom left corner to get familiar with. You can toggle on and off the switches and modes, which are really common in the Layers panel. So you can click the button at the far left, or you can click on Toggle Switches and Modes. And if you're missing the blend modes and track mats, click the button next to that to expand the transfer controls pane. This little blue bar right here is called the current time indicator, or the CTI, or you may hear it called the playhead. This is how you scrub through the timeline. As you scrub using the CTI, there's a time ruler at the top, and there's also a time code at the top left corner of the Layers panel. You can change the duration of a layer. If you go to the end, you see your cursor turns into a double arrow. You can just click and change how long you want that layer visible. If you select multiple layers, go to the end of any layer, click and drag in. That will change the duration for all of the selected layers. I'm going to increase the duration of the timeline by going to Composition Settings, or use the must-know keyboard shortcut Command or Control K. I'm going to change the duration to 30 seconds. I'll type 30, then click OK. I'm going to use a little zoom scrubby so I can zoom out. Now you can see those layers end at the 10-second mark where they were before. So if I drag the CTI past those layers, it's blank since there's nothing there. When you have still footage, so graphics, PNG files, JPEGs, vector files, they have no duration. So you can extend those layers for as long or as short as you want. But if I add a video file, you can see this video file has a duration of 15 seconds. So when I add that on the Layers panel, it's only going to go as long as that video file is. So in this case, it goes to the 15-second mark. So I cannot extend a file if there's no more information. But there is a trick, and you learned it in an earlier video, but if you right-click, go to Interpret Footage, Main, I can increase the number of loops. I can make this 99 if I want. Click OK, and now I can extend that video file as long as I want. To rename a layer, just select it, tap Enter or Return, enter a new name. To change the label color, just click on the color swatch, pick a new color, and you can also select multiple layers to change the labels for multiple layers. You can twirl open a layer to view all the properties and any effects that you add, and you can quickly find anything in the Layers panel by just clicking in the search field and typing out what you're looking for. To offset or move a layer so you can control the timing, just click and drag it down the timeline. To split layers, select the layer, go up to the top menu, click on Edit, Split Layer, or use the keyboard shortcut Shift Command or Shift Control D. That will split the layer and put the split half on a new layer. Sometimes by accident, you might double click on a layer. That's going to open it up in its own viewer, and sometimes it gets confusing. If you look at the top, you can see it says layer, and this one says composition. Just close the layer. That will take you back to the composition. I will end this lesson with 3 of my favorite and most used keyboard shortcuts in all of After Effects. The first is duplicating layers. Select one or multiple layers, press Command or Control D to duplicate, and you can just keep pressing Command or Control D to duplicate. Next, to move layers up and down the stack, select one or multiple layers, press Command or Control and the left bracket key to move the layers down the stack, Command or Control right bracket keys to move up the stack. And finally, if you have multiple layers selected, sometimes it gets kind of tight down here in the Layers panel. To quickly deselect, tap on the F2 key. Easy as that. Bonus round. You already know if you hover your cursor over any panel, you don't even have to click, press the grave or tilde key in the top left corner of your keyboard to take that panel full screen to give you some breathing room. To select all layers, press Command or Control A. To expand all layers, if you hold the Shift key and click the arrow next to any of the selected layers, that will expand the layers. I'll press Shift and click again to collapse them all. If you want to expand the layers and all of their properties, press Command or Control and then click one of the arrows. All of the layers will be expanded and all of their properties will be revealed. Just do that in reverse, press Command or Control, click on the arrow next to any one of the layers. That will collapse all the layers. And to go back to the composition and to the main interface, press the grave or tilde key again. So now that you're more familiar with the timeline panel, which is where you're going to be spending the majority of your time in After Effects, in the next lesson, we're going to look at how to save and close projects. So when you're done working for the day, how do you save and close your After Effects projects?